Hey, and good Saturday morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, with your severe weather update here on your Saturday morning here, May the 3rd. Boy, oh boy, it was a very active day yesterday, and I want to personally thank all the folks who participated in our live coverage yesterday and the 60 new subscribers in the channel. So again, appreciate you guys taking part. And if you're catching this report after the live update and you're not a subscriber just yet, personal invitation to you, help our small channel out. Please give us a subscribe there. And if you appreciate the report, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. I do appreciate it. All right, we're looking at the activity yesterday, and boy, was it busy. We had over 383 reports. No official tornadoes, although I believe we may have had one actually here in the Atlanta metro area, in the Gainesville area. There's multiple shots of it. I don't know if it actually touched the ground or not, but looked like we may have had one in metro Atlanta. But other than that, looking at just a lot of hail and damage reports. Wind damage is up to 225 reports, wind reports, and hail up to 158. So it was quite busy yesterday. Now, I'm not expecting the same level for today, but we will have it around. And a lot of big cities are going to be in the crosshairs for today. So I wanted to make sure I give you guys a morning update to kind of get ready in case we see some active weather later. So let's go ahead and break this down. Let's look at the latest from the Storm Prediction Center here, as we are looking at that slight risk for severe weather, kind of stubbing all the way from New Hampshire all the way back down in here toward the Carolinas and coming out. It's kind of a thin layer. Notice we have the marginal that's going all the way to the Gulf Coast. So it is going to be one of those days. We've got a couple of rounds of rain coming through, as we've got an upper level low that's going to start to form here across the Ohio River Valley. We're actually going to have two of them, one out west, one in the east. It's setting up to what's known as an omega block pattern here as we go into the new week. So let's go ahead and break this down by the category for today, see how it's breaking down for you here as far as what we can expect. Now, the tornado risk is going to be running pretty low overall here for today. So we just got a couple of areas, obviously up here across the areas of the northeast from New Hampshire down into Maryland and into Virginia. Little spot there. And right along the Gulf Coast, they got some pretty decent thunderstorms moving through there right now. We'll show you that here on the radar here in just 1 second. The wind threat will be a little bit higher, obviously, in that yellow zone where that slight risk was, obviously from New Hampshire back down into the Carolinas. That's where we're going to be seeing that activity for today. Strong gusty winds up to 60 miles per hour. So we will have some severe thunderstorm warnings around. Again, I just not expecting quite as much as what we had yesterday. I don't know what the number was, final total yesterday was, but it was quite high. Several hundred for sure on the count. And the wind threat's also in the same area, and also still looking at a decent hail threat here, down to 5%, even down across Alabama and Georgia, where we actually had multiple hail reports yesterday as well. Now, as this thing begins to shift off, we'll see things begin to improve. We look at your day 2 outlook here, just looking here along portions of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, down along the coast there. And we got another pocket out here into New Mexico. That's your day 2 going into the second half of the weekend. So looking a little bit better. And then we start the new work week. We'll be focusing back here toward Texas. That'll be the area for slight risk as we go in towards your Monday of next week. So that's what we got going on with the severe risk. Again, what we're looking at right now is waiting for the storm system here to begin to push off toward the east here and start to move on. Now, look at these temperatures in here. We're in early May, folks. You see temperatures out here in the 30s across Nebraska and into Kansas. So on below normal temperatures as we're looking at this upper low feature that's going to be kind of kicking out and kind of be camped out around into the Ohio River Valley here for a few days. Going to keep it kind of cold and damp and kind of nasty. But we are seeing the thunderstorms down here along the Gulf Coast. We're seeing some of that down here for this morning. Seeing some of the heavy rains down there. Whoops, I didn't mean to turn that on for you. Let me turn that off for you real quick. That was a little bit of an accident there. Sorry about that. And here we'll show you the local radar here and show you where the thunderstorms are currently falling right now. Down along the Gulf Coast area, as we're seeing that storms there around Fort Walton Beach over to Santa Rosa Beach. Getting ready to come into Panama City with some pretty heavy rains there as well for this morning. So watch out for that as we've got a couple rounds of weather to watch for today. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the model data. I want to go ahead and break this down for you and show you what's going on. Again, I've got a 48-hour loop here, the latest 6Z run here to kind of take you through what we're expecting here for the afternoon. So let's go ahead and talk about that as we've got this thing looping right here as it's getting ready to go through the reset. So again, we're watching the showers and thunderstorms pushing off toward the east. You see another round here flare up. Here's our upper low. You see it kind of spinning around in there as this kind of moves off toward the east. And then as it just sits there, we'll have those little pinwheels of little energy. So we'll have little showers and thunderstorms that'll flare up as these little cold pockets move into the more unstable air and kind of get going out there. Then we got another upper level low out here out to the west. I won't forget our friends out here in the west as well, coming into the southwest. So that's going to keep it kind of cool down there. So we've got a double barrel they're kind of looking with the upper level low systems kind of going on through here. Let me go ahead and stop this real quick. I want to back this up. We'll go ahead and zoom in on some of this activity here, kind of forming a little bit closer here across the east. Obviously, we got the Kentucky Derby supposed to be going on today, but boys, are looking kind of wet up there for today as we got this wet, rainy activity here pushing on through Alabama and Georgia. Notice we got a couple of lines here. We got this initial line here. This doesn't look all that bad, but then it's this line back here looking a little more intense here from Kentucky back into Alabama. That one will probably give you a few marginal risks for severe weather, a few isolated severe thunderstorm warnings as this begins to push off toward the east. So that's around 5, 6 o'clock, and it moves right across Georgia and into Tennessee, Kentucky, going into Virginia. And then you notice that storm out ahead, the line out ahead of this also starts to get destabilized. So this one starts to get a little fired up here from Maryland back into the Carolinas. So we got two separate lines we're kind of tracking there. There's our upper level low right back here, kind of spinning around. And again, going to make things kind of unsettled there all weekend long there across Kentucky, Southern Illinois, into Indiana and Ohio here throughout the weekend. Now this thing will begin to move on off, well, slowly but surely, but it's kind of cut off. We got this omega block pattern setting up in here, so that low's just going to kind of sit there and just spin around there across the middle of the country. Look at that thing, just kind of spinning around here across the northeast, going in throughout the day on your Sunday. So Sunday's going to remain unsettled. We'll still see a few thunderstorms. You notice that with the daytime heating, we're still getting these thunderstorms flaring up like here around West Virginia. Remember, we had that marginal pocket that was kind of still in there as that low kind of spins off these little pieces of energy. And with the daytime heating, we get the instability and we get additional thunderstorms. So this is going to kind of sit there through the weekend and into early next week. Now, speaking of rainfall totals, let's talk about that. We're going to have some decent rainfall totals here across here. Check out here around Kentucky again. You got the Kentucky Derby going on, although it does show a bit of a bullseye emptiness right around Louisville. But you got some pretty heavy rains here across Kentucky, Indiana, showing 2.5 inches of rain in there. So upwards of 2 inches, not out of the question here for some of these rainfall here across Indiana, as that low's just going to be sitting there. So we'll have that rain just kind of percolating around. Down across the south, though, across Alabama, Georgia, looking at rainfall amounts, 1 inch to 2 inches. Seeing some higher rainfall totals, especially down along the Gulf Coast. You're seeing area anywhere from 1 inch, 1.5 inches. And this area could use some rain. A lot of the rain that's fallen in the southeast, to give an example, fell in like the first week of April. So it's been a bit on the dry side here, almost a month. So some welcome rains here across the southeast. Checking up toward the Carolinas, seeing a couple of pockets here of 2.5 inches as well. Generally some 1 inch pockets here across Virginia and heading up into Maryland and to West Virginia. Pennsylvania also looking at some decent rains, 1 to 2 inches. Here's a nice little heavy spot here across southern New York. I mean, that's actually lighting up 3.5 inches there. So there'll be some pockets, some heavier rain here and there, depending on how the rain band's set up. But we'll see some heavy rains here across New England as well. And a lot of this in the southeast. Now, folks out here in the west, not that much. Really not looking all that bad. You're looking at Nevada getting some rains. Getting kind of late to see rains out that far to the west this time of year, but they'll take it. Seeing a little rain out there in Utah and out here toward New Mexico. So that's what we're seeing for today. Let's again do a wrap up here. Let me look at your roundup here one more time as we look at our day one outlook here for severe weather once again. As we're going to be dealing with this severe weather here, stretching from New Hampshire, that little thin yellow area there, from New Hampshire all the way down into South Carolina here for today, kind of going right through there. Again, the big story today will be strong damaging winds on a local level. You get some heavy rain, some lightning. Tornado risk is low, not zero, but might see a possibility of 1 or 2 to pop up. Just depends on how things set up. And then we'll see things begin to settle down. But definitely going to remain unsettled all weekend long for you folks, unfortunately, across the Ohio River Valley, as that cutoff low is just going to be spitting there. And hopefully the weather breaks just enough for the Kentucky Derby to get in for later this afternoon. All right, that's y'all's update. Again, I want to thank everybody for checking us out. I do appreciate all the new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you'd like to make this part of your regular feed, I do this when we got active weather going on. I think I'm going to make this a regular feature outside of my regular weather dailies, which I'll start back up again on Monday morning. And if you like to have weather given to you straight without scaring the bejesus out of you and just keeping you weather informed and weather ready when you need it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'll be an honor and privilege to be one of your weather sources. God knows there's enough of them out there in the YouTube universe, and I'd like to be one of your choices. All right, that's y'all's update for today. You guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.